The Party is Over. That's the title of my documentary. I want to document my journey from a retired working man, almost a year now, to the first write-in candidate for governor of New York. My name is Robert Mercado. I'm 67 years old, and I've been around the block a few times. I have been very disappointed by our leadership on the state level for sure, for our city, definitely. And that is part of the reason of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Mayor Mamdani, our leader, our mayor, I believe, is not looking out for the best interests of New York State, and possibly not even New York City. He is appealing to a small segment of the population, and he's destroying our tax base for the state, which definitely will hamper our ability to do innovative things in the future, and possibly make it very difficult to continue on basic functions of government, much less the gravy of what most governments enjoy consuming, meaning the things that don't have anything to do with basic services and the basic functions of government, which is the safety of its citizens, the defending of its borders, and most importantly, creating an environment where prosperity can continue and our people can thrive and dream and build. And above that, we want people to want to stay here in New York State. We don't want people to migrate out of the state because of poor policies and poor vision by its leaders. We want somebody, anybody, that is willing to go against the status quo of the Republican and Democratic parties dominating the conversation of politics. Now, have you ever wondered why, when you look at the qualifications for most political positions, including governor, including president, senator, congresspeople, and so on, that there's never a educational requirement? You don't require a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a doctorate. None of those things are required. Just basically your age. In the case of the president, 35. For the governor, 30 years of age, and so on. But why was that instituted in our constitutions as the requirements for office? I believe it was a premonition by our forefathers that they know. We don't know where talent comes from. We don't know who the next genius or musical prodigy or scientific visionary. We don't know where they come from. Normally they are built from educations at our universities, but that's not a guarantee. What is a guarantee is that there is talent, and we have to find it where it may come from. We don't know if some uneducated or basically educated individual like myself would do a good job or do a mediocre job, or worse, cause damage to the state for many years. Unfortunately, the only way you can determine that is usually what they call vetting. Vetting is a process in which we find out, investigate qualifications of an individual, their background, and of course, their thoughts, ideas, and what they will implement if elected. Now, there's no guarantee that even if somebody's well educated, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Oxford, you name it, the top university does not guarantee that that person will be a good leader. Will people follow them? That is the question. Who will a population follow and take leadership from? That we don't know. Usually leadership is usually thrust upon individuals, not really seeking it. And I believe that I am one of those such individuals. On face value, if you look at me by my education, my speaking abilities, and my background, for the most part, is not an encouraging metric to choose a governor. I would never recommend that to any citizen of any state or any country for that matter. However, there are people that can see certain things, that can look through a maze of confusion, misdirection, and still see a path forward that's viable and should be pursued. Now, I do have a vision of what I see. I see that New York State in particular, and I'm going to basically talk about New York State, but it's probably the same all over the country. We have a state that's predominantly Democratic. Now, there's nothing wrong with a state being predominantly Democratic. Republicans have had the leadership position years ago. I believe back when Pataki was our governor, was the last Republican in office, and they have tried every election cycle to replace Democratic leadership. Now, the problem with one party dominating a state is because, unfortunately, as human nature is, we will try to capitalize on our lock on power and try to maintain it. And we will push an agenda, sometimes not in the best long-term interest of the state. And I believe that's something that we have now. I know in the past, good people have tried to get put on the ballot, but they were stopped cold by the opposition parties. There's a thing called petitions. To get on the ballot, petitions must be filed, and sometimes they're taken on face value, sometimes they need to be verified, and therefore they are challenged. And when they are challenged, unfortunately, the people that judge the challenge are people of the same party. I'm not saying that everybody's corrupt, because it's not true. But unfortunately, we are a bunch of sheep, and we tend to follow the pack. And I know in this country, the title of Democratic Party is closely linked to the democratic system of government that we think we have. In reality, we do not have a democratic government. It is a republic form of government. We choose leaders to represent us in the Senate and in the Congress and in the executive branch. And that's how it's normally done. But unfortunately, what happens is they try to guide the population to their choices, the party's choices. And unfortunately, that excludes probably very talented people that don't want to fight or have a fight over petitions before they even get a chance to fight in a general election. So we exclude many people by that process. Fortunately for us, there is another avenue to be elected, and that avenue is called the write-in candidate. Now, I am researching this thoroughly from the Board of Elections, the official body that administers how elections are conducted. So I wrote a letter to the Board of Elections inquiring what is necessary to run as a write-in candidate. It's not easy to know. I've asked many people, and most are not absolutely sure of what the process is or what is entailed. I found a few bits and pieces on the internet, but I can't go by that. I need an official designation from the official body that handles elections. And that's what I am attempting to do. Now, this is not an easy process. So therefore, I believe that this process should be documented. And the reason it should be documented, because if I am successful of getting on the ballot in the general election, that would be a milestone for America and definitely for New York State. So, therefore, I am asking you to scrutinize this videotape, not tape, this video recording. Look at it, discuss it with your friends and family, and determine for yourselves, am I suitable, one, to run? Two, if I am found to be suitable to run, should I be supported? Now, a write-in candidacy is basically kind of like a back door to be put on the ballot without really suffering the normal pains of getting on the ballot. But on the other side of getting on the ballot doesn't guarantee you'll be elected. You have to be known. You have to be heard. You have to be discussed and reviewed by the media, by the public, other politicians, and you have to endure all those things to finally be able to get elected. So I hope this is entertaining to you. I would imagine this is going to be not a cakewalk in the park. This is going to be very difficult. There's going to be all kind of oppositions wanting to stop me from getting on the ballot and from being heard. My solution is to make this documentary. Hopefully someone would want to share it on a national platform. I could definitely do it on YouTube. That is an easy thing to do. And they do have quite a bit of success in reaching audiences. Now, it would be good if I could be picked up by Amazon or Netflix or Apple or any of the large media outlets, and they would air my quest for a new way to choose leaders beside the Republican and Democratic method of government. Now I know I say Republican and Democrat, but there are some other smaller parties, like the Working Families Party, the Libertarian Party, the Socialist Party, and so on and so on. But usually they are just basically fringe groups that never get anywhere in the real election. Now, I want to change that. I want people of good heart and good ideas, motivated, with leadership abilities, to be able to get in, to try their hand. We cannot be hurt by this. There's always the option of choosing one of the major parties. However, as we see year after year, election cycle after election cycle, we get these candidates that are not really worthy to be candidates forced upon us. I don't want to mention any particular candidates for any election, but there's a few that come to mind. People that don't work hard for the campaign. Now, if you see a candidate that doesn't work hard in the election process, in the called the campaign, if you don't work hard during the campaign, do you really expect they're going to work hard when they become the elected official, and in this case, governor? Do you think the governor, after they get elected, are going to work as hard as they do when they campaign? True. Usually, campaigns are run on other people's money. Very few candidates go into their bank accounts and spend the money on their campaign. They usually get supporters to contribute to their campaigns to run. Now, there's one thing about money that is given to you, whether in a campaign or any other method of acquiring money, gifts, working hard. But usually money that's given to you, not earned by hard work and sweat, usually is easily spent. Now, I said I wasn't going to go into a particular campaign, but let's go back to the last presidential election. The Democratic candidate had over $1 billion. That's a lot of money, $1 billion. And they couldn't persuade the American public to vote for their candidate. So, now the Republican candidate had money, and he used his fame and his manner of being entertaining to get a lot of free publicity that normally would have cost tons of money. But that is what we call being savvy. We need a savvy leader, one that's going to figure other ways besides spending other people's money. I know that all of you have better purposes for your money than giving it to me to run a long shot campaign. So I will spare you. I won't do that. I'm going to find other methods to get the word out. I will do that. For example, I grew this beard, not because I think I look dashing with it, but it distinguishes me from the other candidate. I know Kathy does not have a beard. She's a very beautiful woman. I acknowledge that. I know Bruce Blakeman is a very handsome, distinguished man with much success. And I don't fault either one of them for running. But they're unfortunately used to the way things are being done. And I think we are done with that. The way things have been done have come to a point where we can't continue doing the same thing over and over. We need to find new ways. I know the word change is a popular political term that every politician likes to use. And I'm not seeking much change. There's a lot of laws on the books that we have now that if we followed them, we would be better off. But not everybody follows the laws. So following the law and wanting to do good from your part gets us halfway there. The answer is not throwing everybody in jail that needs to go to jail. Because if we really had the ability to look at many people, many of you would be in jail or being prosecuted if we had truth. But unfortunately, truth eludes all of us. We all know that. If you lived anywhere in this world, you know that truth is very elusive. Now, truth is something that's very important because it allows us to honestly look at where we are and where we want to go. And truth means that we have to watch the money we spend. We can't be frivolous with that money. It doesn't grow as a crop, although government sometimes believe it does. They like spending, and there's no sense of control. My candidacy, I want to exhibit some control, not having runaway spending on a campaign. I want to run one of the cheapest, most efficient campaigns that you will ever see, especially here in New York. So wait for my next episode of The Party Is Over, and I will see you next time.